think as long as I make space by deleting the previous one that I edit and post up, there should be room for a new one. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, it's my stupid camera.
It's all good. I'm going to go ahead and get some coffee so I don't have to get up and caffeinate in the middle of things.
What was I thinking? Oh, I assume you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Cool. I think so. You posted this to yesterday's chat to your channel. I don't think it's great to fragment it. So you're welcome to have them all on your channel, but I could also give you publishing rights to ETHStaker, and then you could publish them there if you want.
Okay.
We have a broader reach, and so
yeah, I agree. I just didn't know what else to do. I just didn't, like I said, there was a lot of links in the chain with sending it to me doing it, me sending it back, and I was just trying to streamline things a little bit. But yeah, I don't mind publishing it to your channel at all.
Yeah, because as I looked at it, I'm like, in a way we kind of lost one. Because anybody who's following the series is like now switching to a different channel to catch that episode.
Well, you want me to re-upload it with those publishing rights?
Secretly, I don't care. You do whatever you want. Like,
well, there's no,
my phone isn't chatting. I don't. So
I'm cool with sustaining any momentum that we may have been acquiring. So
the funny thing about me and media, like, I don't worry too much about where it goes. Like, if it's out there, then I think it's eventually going to connect to the right people. But in terms of like this series, I do think continuity would be beneficial.
Yeah, I agree. But often when things are in their formative stage, there's a little bit of shuffling around, like figuring out how to get that graphic on the front of it, and I'm still trying to like I said, streamline the
And
you
one of the things,
me getting it back to you, and
one of the things about me, probably not the best thing in the world, is like once I'm done with a chat, like I'm done. Like I'm moved on to something else, and so I don't find a ton of time to like tinker with it, and that's my own weakness. Because like I'm not maximizing content value, but I'm also like I'm just doing something else. So
yes, well, I'm happy to tinker, but yeah, we'll just figure out how we want to do it. The publishing rights thing sounds like the best move, though. I think
okay,
that way I can just upload it from here and just get it where it needs to be.
So I know how to give that access, but I don't know how to use it. So we can go from there once we get started. I'll give you the access, and then we'll figure it out from there.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right.
Let's see. So on my end, to play on what we've been talking about, or to summarize what we've talked about, I guess in the last few days, some of the key hit points have been an overview of the online community, different branches of it, what those branches offer, in particular strengths in those different branches, and sort of just differentiating between them. That was a good chat, also giving them the names of some active members of the community who are producing content that would be considered valuable, noteworthy.
Have you consumed any of that?
Let's see. The specific, I haven't been to the Reddit page. I've looked around at some of the followers to your Twitter page and tried and sort of investigated some of that. I have not gotten on that YouTube page that you recommended, the gentleman you recommended yesterday. But
if I could encourage you to do anything, I would encourage you to begin by listening to the Daily Gwei every day.
Okay.
Because what you're going to find is, like, as a beginner, 90% of it is going to be like just be gobbledygook.
Gotcha.
But after a few weeks, you'll catch some recurring themes, and it will begin to make more sense.
Okay.
So
Well, I
like
have subscribed to it, I think, and
it comes out about 8:30 every weekday ish. And so like I do it while I'm exercising, but
Mhm.
it's best like if you just fit it into your schedule somewhere and then be like, this is my daily Gwei time, whether you're driving or like whatever it is that you can fit it in. And then we can yell at Anthony if he ever misses an episode for messing up our schedule.
Okay. Uh, I don't think I'm subscribed to it, so I'm going to subscribe to that now. GWEI.
That's right. Gwei is just a measure of the unit of gas for Ethereum.
Okay.
Gas, yeah, gas is the wow. Oh my gosh, like, can I have 2 minutes to zoom out and tell you what Ethereum is? Like, I can do this so fast.
Sure.
Ethereum is a smart contract platform. It allows people to write programs that run exactly the same way every time in a trustless environment. But to harness all of this computing power, thousands of computers around the world, it's not free. It can be pretty cheap though. So Ether is the gas for the Ethereum smart contract network. If you want to interact with that platform, you buy Ether and then you do things. And as you do things, that Ether is consumed by the network. In many cases, it's burned by the network or awarded to people who are securing the network. And so that is Ether exists to fuel the Ethereum smart contract platform. Done.
Okay.
So
Noted. And I'm presuming, are we talking about gas fees? That's now it's or okay. I'm presuming as gas that the trend is that gas fees are lowering as the system finds ways to make it more efficient. I'm not sure.
yeah, no, that's really cool. So yeah, transaction fees.
Okay.
So the difference between gas and transaction fees.
Okay.
Gas is how much Ether you use, right? And so it's measured usually in Gwei. So you might say, that transaction was, 500 Gwei. That was the gas fee that I paid. But when you multiply gas times the exchange price, then you get the transaction fee. So if you paid like 500 gas and the transaction or the exchange rate is $1,500, then you end up saying, well, I paid $4.50 as a transaction fee. And that didn't answer your question. That was tangential to your question. Remind me of the question was? It was a good one that I went somewhere else.
Well, the difference between I was under the impression that staking
cheaper
and gas were or no, I'm not sure. I'm confused.
No, you were wondering if it gets cheaper, like if it gets cheaper to use, and that's a huge question we call scaling. And so when Ethereum was first developed, obviously it was new and there was no one using it, and then everyone discovers it and begins using it, and then they have to do improvements to the platform to allow for more transactions. And so each one of these hard forks usually includes updates to improve the efficiency of the smart contract platform in an attempt to allow for more transactions. What we're moving toward in the future, is that the Ethereum network is a settlement layer for lots of these things we call layer 2 solutions, and they are other platforms that check into Ethereum for security, but allow really cheap, like microcent transactions.
Okay. Is the relationship between Gwei and Ethereum similar to cents and dollars? There's a fraction of Gwei equals one Ethereum. Is that is it a fixed ratio, unlike market value relationship of Ethereum to dollars? Is it a fixed number of Gwei equals one Ethereum?
Yeah, I want to say that one Gwei is like, and I'm sorry, I should know this better, but I don't look at it very often, is like 8 decimal places. So 0.123456780 is 1. Ether is 1 Gwei. And you'd want to double check that. it is like static math. It's just not something I think about every day.
So fractions of a cent, it sounds like.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And so the the transaction fee is the expense to the network of completing steps in the smart contract. So if it's a simple smart contract, we call these a simple send. Like if I'm sending ether from me to you, that's going to be like super cheap. But if I'm engaging with like a MakerDAO collateralized debt position where there are, hundreds of smart contract steps involved, then you're looking at $100 in fees. And if ether is very expensive, so like right now ether is $1,500. If ether was 10 times the cost it is now, a transaction that today would cost $100 might cost $1,000. And that's why we have what we call layer 2 solutions, and they are much cheaper to use. They have much higher throughput. But at the same time, I talked about it being expensive to interact with a MakerDAO CDP. If you're doing something that's very valuable to you, like maybe you are
buying a hat.
But no, something on network, something on chain that is very valuable to you. Like, I don't want to be too complicated about like what could happen, but maybe you really need this transaction to go through. Maybe you're willing to pay $1,000 for that. Maybe your outcome is that you're going to get $10,000 and the $1,000 is no big deal. So it's all relative, and yeah.
Okay, so there are times when a high transaction fee is justified.
Oh, absolutely. Especially, you're going to see that in March. In March, when we have this Shanghai hard fork, when withdrawals are enabled, there are going to be races when that happens for different things. The most obvious kind of race is someone has lost control of their Ethereum keys, and maybe I'm the thief, and as the thief, I want to get that ETH in my pocket as soon as I can. And so if that ether is worth $40,000, then heck, I'm willing to pay $5,000 in a gas fee to be the first person, to be the priority, and get that in my pocket.
Oof. How do keys get lost?
So the most obvious way is people leaving them unsecured on their computer, and maybe their computer gets attacked.
Okay.
So you get viruses, and maybe those viruses are scanning for things that look like seed phrases or private keys, and when they find them, they send them back. And so you're like, I just noticed my computer got hacked, and I have my seed phrase in a notepad on my desktop. You can't really know until someone else does something if it has been stolen. And so first best practice is never leave your seed phrases like on a computer. They should always be written down on paper.
Okay, that's
but next it's like let's move that before somebody else does. It becomes a race to get it first.
And I guess the moving and shaking occurs anonymously, so there's no way in terms of, well, I guess the attitude's different though. You don't look at that as in terms of criminal behavior. Is it looked at as criminal?
It is. And if your keys are compromised and stolen, you should report it to the FBI and the local police.
Okay.
Period. Because I made light of hacking the other day. There is unethical and immoral and illegal hacking that does exist, and that is when you infiltrate someone's computers and steal their keys. But there is an expectation when you put a smart contract on the network that people will poke at it. And those people are not necessarily black hat attack hackers. In many cases, they're just curious people. They're not necessarily trying to steal something. They're not getting into your computer, digging for your keys, trying to steal things from you. They are doing kind of like network penetration testing.
I see another potential lesson on prudent security measures that
Oh yeah, that would be great.
could be a good discussion or a good thing to put together. Just knowing that you don't want to leave it, as someone who loves the Note app, knowing that you don't want to leave that information copied and pasted into one of those programs on your laptop,
Yeah,
desktop.
I hope in a few days we get you set up with MetaMask if you're not already, and get you something like an ENS address. As we're doing that, we'll talk about how to secure that so that no one else is going to get access to your funds, and also levels of security. Like, you don't want to leave $1 million secured by MetaMask. We could actually, we end up using devices like, I'm going to unplug this. Hold on one moment. This is a Grid Plus by Lattice One. If I get the camera view on it. So this is and I had to unplug it because my plug is right near the desk. But it's a hardware wallet. It links to your browser and prevents anyone from stealing keys directly from it.
Okay.
So you have to physically push buttons here on this screen before any funds can be moved. Even if someone gets into your computer, unless they know your passcode and are in your seat and, are hijacking you, they can't get your stuff.
Okay. Going back to MetaMask, I about a year and a half ago, I uploaded 10 or 11 NFTs or some of my digital art converted to NFT, and I had to open up a MetaMask. I don't know if it's an account, a wallet. I'm not sure what the terminology is, but I had to move, I guess, for transaction fees, which was surprisingly expensive, at least to a novice. But yeah, I lost, I think, maybe about $100 or so, which to me is expensive.
That's expensive to any sane person. Yeah.
Just in the fees of converting the art to NFTs and posting it on a site. And there was a conversion. I think my Ethereum had to be converted to Sol, and then Sol was the primary coin that was used in the transactions.
Yeah, that's Solana is a competing smart contract platform. They regard themselves as an ETH killer, and so they sacrifice decentralization for speed and cheapness. One day we might talk about the scaling trilemma, but it's more complicated. Anyway, Solana is another chain, and they're like, you know what? You don't really need worldwide decentralization to have a smart contract platform. What you really need are a few really fast computers. And so that's their competition. But Solana has gone down several times, and I think that their platform has mostly crashed and dissolved. I know it still exists, but I think it might be dying or dead at the moment.
Yeah, it's been a year and a half, and it was only a couple of weeks of uploading that was the extent of my experience with it. But I had to create a wallet. I don't even know how much, if anything, is still in that in the wallet. I would really have to blow the dust off some of that stuff and take a look at it. But it's been a while. But yeah, I do have some. At least broken the seal on MetaMask.
You have some soul, man, probably.
yeah, which is probably not worth anything.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me not to like rub salt in a wound, because this is a platform that like a year ago was like, we're going to crush Ethereum, and
yeah, this is about a year ago.
They have fallen on hard times. Wow, they've actually rebounded. They're trading at $21 right now, and I think that they were trading around $200 a year ago. Yeah, so November 6th, 2021, they were $259. Yeah. Anyway, we will talk about ETH killers at some point. They are in some ways a thing that spurs Ethereum toward positive growth, but in
Hmm.
other ways they're a real distraction unless they are actually like bringing some kind of new value, which doesn't happen too often.
Okay, I'm trying to write down crypto killers as future.
ETH killers.
Oh, sorry, ETH killers. I'm reading and talking at the same time. Uh, DeFi. That was the last question that I had written down prior to this one. What are ETH killers? What is DeFi? Was this
So yeah, so there have been like a few rages or uh, fads in
okay?
Ethereum. Things like we had this thing called the ICO boom. And that was when it was, I guess 2017, when a bunch of platforms are like, we are going to launch a new platform. We're going to launch it from Ethereum. We're going to take investments and then issue you a token. And we're going to build something huge and incredible. And that's called an initial coin offering. So it's an ICO. And so people dump money in and they get coins. 99.9% of the time, the people who were promoting those ICOs just took the money and ran. Like, yeah.
Oh,
So that was one of the early fads in Ethereum. And then a next
okay.
fad was something like NFTs. And I don't want to call it a fad, it's still around, but you create these JPEGs and you sell them and you make a ton of money. Another of the I shouldn't call them fads because they still exist in a valuable way, but they got really big for a while, like bigger
Yeah.
than
Last
um
December, it was everybody on the news was talking about it. Well,
yeah,
I guess it was about 6 months leading up to that.
yeah. There are these big like booms, I guess. And so DeFi is another one of these things. There is this time called DeFi summer, and that is decentralized finance. It is the idea of DeFi is essentially recreating complex financial instruments on top of the Ethereum network. And so um, think of things like I take my Ether and deposit it at a website. They take that Ether and maybe loan it out to an ICO. The ICO gives them tokens in return that they distribute to people who have deposited, and they get yield. And so one of the big themes of DeFi is the idea of yield. That is depositing coins or tokens and getting returns on that. And that's essentially like the driving engine behind DeFi. Another angle of DeFi is leveraged lending. So let's say, we could even turn to buying a house. Let's say I have 10,000 Ether and I want to buy a house, but I don't want to sell my Ether. I could take my 10,000 Ether and lock it up in a contract and borrow against it. And that's essentially a credit-backed loan, or I'm sorry, an asset-backed loan. And so I put in 10,000 and I can borrow 3,000 Ether. And at current prices, then I get $450,000 in cash when I sell that. And then I could buy a house. And technically, I haven't sold my Ether, right? Because it's locked in this loan. And ideally, if the price of Ether goes up, then I can pay that loan back more cheaply. And I did good on the house. Another thing a lot of people will do is take 1,000 Ether and borrow $10,000 against that and buy more Ether with that, deposit that, borrow against it, deposit that, and borrow against that. I call that rolling a CDP. So you're like getting into this really deep leveraged position. If the
What's the
price
risk?
of Ether, yeah, if the price of Ether goes up, you did really well. If the price of Ether goes down, you're required to put more collateral into that position to keep it collateralized. If you cannot collateralize it, you're liquidated. The system, not any person, but the smart contract layers will sell your ether on your account at market price in order to settle the loan. And so if you have 1,000 ether and you borrow $10,000 against that, but the price of ether goes down, the network will sell your ether to cover that $10,000 loss to make the system whole at your expense. And that's called being liquidated. So these are, DeFi is essentially, you can imagine it just as complex financial instruments built on top of the Ethereum network.
Okay. I guess I was reading an article last night that mentioned that.
The two things are yields and loans. Those are, at least I'm not huge into DeFi, but those are the two like hallmark features.
Okay. Well, let's see. Well, I mentioned the first half of what I was thinking about in terms of putting together some instructional materials. First was the crash course into the branches of social networking. The second one was the scenario we talked about, more of the sequential. So I got $100. What do I do? And the 5 components of that.
I'm dying to answer this. When can I answer this?
Well, I don't know what we're at time-wise for today. We can dedicate all of tomorrow to just getting started directly with that.
Wait a day?
We can do it if we got time. I don't know. You're the loquacious one. I'm just listening.
I don't even know what our time is, but the question excites me because it has evolved over time until now. I'm like, I know exactly what I would do with it.
Oh,
and so can I do it? So do the setup, and then I'll do my side of it. Give me the setup. The same, like you told me, like some guy who you know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was talking to him about the chats that we've been having, and his response was, I got $100. What should I do? Or ask him what I should do. And I said that I would. And here we are.
Okay. So I'm coming at this as an ETH maxi, not as a profit maxi. And so the idea being that you're going to deposit $100 and forget it. Like you're coming back in 20 years to see what happened to it. Because if it's like a short-term investment, then my suggestions might be very different. Then it would be like, how can you, what's the maximum quick profit? So the idea is you have $100 and you want to come back in 20 years and see how it did. Now, if you start at CoinGecko, you're going to see like the top thing is Bitcoin. And so you kind of have this assumption that Bitcoin is going to last a while. I agree with that, but you also know that I think Bitcoin is a Model T.
Okay, right.
Ethereum being a smart contract platform, it's in really rapid iterative growth. It's really doing well. It has a lot of brains and development behind it. The next few things, Tether, USD coin, those are stable coins. If you invest in a stable coin in 20 years, ideally, if you don't blow up, you're going to have exactly what you started with. So you'd have $100 then. There are a couple other projects, but I'm going to assume that with $100, we're going to invest it in Ethereum in some way. And the simple answer is just buy Ether and hold it. But I want to take it a step further. You know that staking is enabled on Ethereum now. And staking means you put a bond on the network and you get, safely 4 or 5% return every year. And so really the best bang for your buck is to take that $100 and put it into an Ether staking token, because then you're getting if Ether appreciates in assets in price, you get that. And if the staking token is going to like add rewards onto that. And so to look at that, to look at the staking products, we would go to rated.network. And rated.network shows a couple different places where you could stake. Are you looking at that, or am I looking at that? I could actually share it.
Sure.
I need to open a new screen. I always have junk.
No problem.
Okay, so this is rated.network. This is one site that looks at beacon chain validator rankings. These are places that stake and how much return they're getting. And these are, if as Super Phiz, the guy on the internet, I'm always going to tell you the best way that you can stake is solo staking from home on your own hardware. But that takes 32 Ether. It's like $45,000 right now. Not going to happen. And so what you're going to do, you're going to need to use a service. And so I'm going to zip through some of these services. People who are new tend to go to this place. Oh, cool. Yeah. People tend to go toward Lido. Lido isn't a product that I recommend because they have a very centralized operation, and they have sort of openly stated that like they want to take over the network. And that's totally contrary to our decentralized ideas. Coinbase is similar. It's an exchange provider. They hold all of your coins and they stake for you, and they're in control. Going all the way through the next three, Kraken, Binance, and Bitcoin Swiss, they all work the same. They take your coins. They're called custodians. They're custodial exchanges. They stake for you. To be very honest, you don't hold any Ether. You hold what we say is an entry in their database. And if they fold, if they go out of business, if they delete you, if they're like, we don't like you, then they're in control of your funds. And that gets us to Rocket Pool, which that's the place that I really suggest people using. I'm going to say some words like trustless, open source, decentralized, permissionless, and fractional. We can go over those words sometime, but the idea is when you stake with Rocket Pool, you stake with this worldwide network of like 1,900 individual operators who stake on your behalf. You do that through a smart contract. So even if Rocket Pool fails, you can still withdraw from the smart contract. So I'm gonna I talk about Rocket Pool a lot. I'm absolutely obsessed with it, but for all of the right reasons. And so Rocket Pool's staking token is called RETH, RETH. And if you go to, actually, I'm going to show where it's at. If you go to stake.rocketpool.net, you can actually buy RPL tokens here. So you have $100. That's going to be like, wow, that's pretty close. 0.07 ETH that you're going to send to them, and they're going to give you 0.065 RETH. Asking me why there's a difference there.
Okay, what's going on? Why the difference?
So the longer RETH exists, the more staking rewards it accrues. So value accrues on that token. So ideally, in a year or two, or we said 20 years, if you come back, you still have 0.065 Ether, but at that time, it's then worth like 0.015 ETH. And if we have the assumption, ETH is worth whatever $5,000, then you have $70 or $750 out of the original deposit. Anyway. I feel like if I'm terrible, like if I get started talking about Rocket Pool, I just gush nonstop because it is such a cool and highly aligned product. All right.
Okay, well then I guess there's room to learn more about that, and that certainly sounds like a better rate of interest accruing than, I don't know, your typical savings account or something along those lines. You know.
Well, you're accepting a lot of risk. You're accepting a risk that Ethereum will do well. You're also accepting something we call smart contract risk. That is the risk that Rocket Pool might not do well. And so for each of these risks, you're having to decide, is it worth what I'm getting back out of it, or am I accepting more risk than I'm comfortable with? And that's always a difficult balance. I would also, there's also risk with holding US dollars, like they inflate. That's why people go to things like gold, and even gold is not like, it's not a totally safe asset.
Yeah, and of course, just for example, I went to England in 2017, and London was an extremely expensive city. And then I talked to somebody on Friday who said that the pound versus the dollar now, it's a lot cheaper for an American to go over there and spend the money and have a decent time.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, as with every chat, you open one door and it creates a room with 3 or 4 more doors in it. And we've got a few more things. You know, I'd love to learn more about Rocket Pool and, gosh, the family of Ethereum killers. And I'm just looking at the notes that.
Yeah.
And
I'll need you to steer me, honestly, to not always talk about Rocket Pool, because I am so excited about it. And like, I acknowledge I talk about the things that I like. And if I'm allowed, like, I will not shut up, because I'm just, the things that excite me are the things that I like will keep talking about forever. And it's good because you'll see a lot of things that excite me here.
I'll just try to keep up and ask questions as needed. But
okay.
Well, are we at a good stopping point for today?
Yep. I think I'm going to put this in Dropbox, and I'm going to give you access to the ETH Staker YouTube channel. Okay. As we get that figured out, I think you would want to upload both of these talks, maybe, or however you want to do it. I hate for one to be lost in a different channel. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, I'll look. Just let me know when that's ready, and I'll hop right on it.
All right. See you, Jason.
All right. Later.